Oops, got to get it right. And she is our next person behind the passion. How are you, Amy?
Oh my goodness, Dominic. I am doing so well today, and I am so excited to be here and share this experience with you and all of these wonderful people today.
Wow, you look amazing.
Thank you.
These jewels on. I even put on a tie. I mean, I used to be Mr. and I haven't worn a tie for a long time. And then a couple of weeks ago, my daughter's like, "Dad, you have amazing ties. You should wear a tie on your show." I'm like, "Okay."
I know, I felt the same way this morning. I was like, how do I want to come on the show today? Like, how do I want to represent? And this is what felt right. So your tie and my necklace must have had a conversation.
We're all dressed up and no place to go.
I know, right?
Oh, that's great. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for accepting the nomination for Person Behind the Passion. And I so appreciate it because if it wasn't for you, I couldn't be here right now. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, so you're there in Northwest Indiana, my old stomping grounds.
Yes, I live in Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, over there in the I've always kind of been a little bit jealous about Griffith because it's so quiet there. It's kind of like the little unknown town.
Mhm. Yeah, it's in between some noisier towns. The way that you described it, I had to like allow that energy in for a second, but you're right. It is kind of a nice, quiet little space, not all that far from the expressway, and a hop, skip, and a jump from the big city of Chicago. So, you get the little small town life, suburban feel, and the city's not all that far away either.
Hmm. Exactly. I mean, and then you're close to the beach over there, all the dunes and the Lake Street was my favorite actually. Uh, have you been out to Lake Street before?
Lake Street. I like West Beach also because I like how nature-esque it is there.
Hmm.
You can hike in the like wooded areas, but it's connected to the dunes as well. So, but yeah, I Lake Street, West Beach, the main Indiana dunes,
Right.
lots of different places to go and hang out.
It's amazing too because when I have shared pictures, on social media, people are like, "You live next to the ocean?" And I'm just like, "Well, not really, but looks like it though, doesn't it?"
It does, because Lake Michigan is just so large, and if you didn't know any better, it would remind you of the ocean because it's just
Yeah,
such a large body of water.
exactly. And the lake is shaped like a big, I don't know, like a kidney or something, but whatever. It's like a U shape, and then we're down way down at the very bottom. So when you look out, it's like looking the long way. So it looks gigantic.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Not only long but wide
yeah,
also. Yeah.
right. So we have Chicago on one side, and then Michigan on the other side, and Indiana is
Mhm.
down here. So, well, we're
Yes.
just neighbors. We're old friends.
Yes, we are.
Wow. So your passion is about helping people create wealth consciousness, and I know that you've got this amazing story, this journey that you have been on. And this is why we're here, guys, to hear uh, people tell their story about their journey and where they're at and what their passion is really about. So the Self Achievement Network, very simply, it's an opportunity for people to discover their passion or to share their passion or to evolve their passion. So when I created this whole thing, my vision was that I could take what I have learned and what I've used in my life to transform my life, and then give people that opportunity to discover their passion, because there's a lot of people out there that don't know what their passion is. And I always think, so it's not a sad thing. I think it's a great thing, because when we can give people that opportunity to discover what they're really meant here to do, then it's like their life can take off, paying it forward. And so I created the show called Person Behind the Passion so people like Amy can tell her story and talk about what she's doing and what her next steps are. And maybe we'll find, I put that thing out on this thread today. Like, if does anybody have any questions? I didn't even look. Did you look? Did anybody write any questions?
The last I checked, now it's been a little bit. I didn't see any, but of
You
course,
did.
if you guys have them while you're watching the show, I always come back around and check, and I'll make sure that I answer them for you.
Cool. That's cool. And so yeah, so then the I don't have my graphic behind me. It's over on my other wall. But the Self Achievement Network is a main group, and then there are several genre specific groups for people to evolve their passion. So it could be parenting, it could be health, it could be business, it could be my program is called my group is called Life Plan. So what I used to do is I used to go around the country and parts of the world teaching courses on how to transform their life until I had a back injury. Isn't that just great? Which was a great challenge. So, but anyway, so you're there in Northwest Indiana. You're tell us, just give us like an overall picture of who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Amy Boswinkle. I am an intuitive and visionary business coach, and I absolutely love helping people who have had what once felt like or maybe still does feel like a very profound experience in their life, and they've been able to transform it. They can see the power through their pain and stand up and start to share that with other people and build businesses around that so that they can go out into the world and help other people too. Very, very much like you and your passion. And friends, if you guys have never heard Dominic's story, I heard it just a little bit ago. It's absolutely amazing. I hope that my story is just as good. But I wasn't always this person. Dominic shared with us, we all have a story, we all have a beginning, we all have how did you arrive here, Amy, teaching other people about wealth consciousness? Because just 4 years ago, I absolutely had no idea what a wealth consciousness was, because all I could see was shame and guilt and fear and not good enough and self-hatred, and I really didn't see my life going in any direction. And it's not that my life was horrible, it was good enough, and I accepted it as that. And I started off life just kind of feeling really disconnected from other people. The first traumatic experience I had in my life was when I was born, and I don't remember this piece because I was a brand new baby in the world. But when the doctor delivered me, they told my parents to prepare for my death, to literally go to the funeral home and start to prepare because I wasn't going to make it. I was born with a rare strep infection, but they didn't know that at the time. When my mom was delivering me, they told her to stop pushing, and I swallowed amniotic fluid, and I wasn't born being able to thrive. So for 10 days, I lived in an incubator, not sure if I was held or anything of that nature. All I know is that I made it. Obviously, I'm still here. Um, Took 2 different rounds of antibiotics. I went home and had a very hard time bonding with anybody. I had a very hard time bonding with my mother. And looking back on it now, my mom passed away in 2008. She was a prescription opiate addict, and that is part of my story, and accidentally overdosed. And I do believe, looking back on it now, that it really killed her, that I couldn't bond to her. I couldn't bond to anybody, to be honest. I was afraid of people my entire life. At age 3 was the first time I remember being sexually abused by a family member. And I got told to never tell, or they wouldn't, or nobody would love me.
Mm.
And that abuse occurred for many years of my life. And that always got told me, don't tell, or nobody will love you. Nobody will love you, Amy. So make sure you never tell. And so I developed that belief system that if I spoke to other people, that they wouldn't love me. It got ingrained inside of me, and I carried that on as a belief. So much so that when I was able to go to school and teachers would talk to me, I would just stand there mute, incredibly afraid, not being able to answer their question. And so it was believed that I was a special needs student in first grade. That's what my teacher thought. And so she sent me down to the special needs classroom, and grateful for that. I wasn't grateful at that moment in time, but looking back on my life now, grateful for that, because I realized that's the first time that I really understood that I loved helping people, because in that classroom, it was very small. There were more teachers. It was quiet. And I began to thrive because I saw that some of the other students in there weren't able to do some of the things I could, like tie their shoes or put their coat on or read or get their lunches out. And I was able to do those things. And it made me feel good. It made me feel like I had a purpose. And I do believe it allowed me to open up. And those teachers quickly realized I didn't belong there. I could read, I could write, I could do all the things children needed to do. I just really wasn't emotionally or mentally ready for school. And honestly, because of the experiences that I had went through before school even started, I don't know if I ever honestly would have been mentally and emotionally ready for school. So I
Mhm.
got sent back to the regular classroom, and just kind of put in the lower level classes. And that created a story, a new belief in me that I was stupid and that I was fat and I was ugly. And I wasn't told those things. It's not like I was told I was stupid or I was fat or I was ugly. I just created that belief system inside of myself. And I felt very separate from the other kids in my class. And I didn't feel like I could connect, and I didn't feel like people understood me. And, I had this wild hair. I had like this red, crazy, frizzy hair that my mom couldn't tame. And I just was made fun of for it, and it just hurt. And although I did have friends, I just didn't feel connected to them. I didn't feel like I belonged. There were a lot of things that occurred when I was young too that I didn't really understand were abnormal and really what is normal, right?
Mhm.
But my mom, for whatever reason, I'm sure it was something incredibly viable at the time, was prescribed prescription opiates, Vicodin, for many years of her life, and became addicted to that. And so I knew my mom most of the time as someone who would sleep all day and be awake all night. And I would know that our household to have very little food for periods of time. I would know our home to have way too much food for really brief moments of time. I also can remember watching my mom get the bills out of the mailbox and hiding them in drawers and hiding them under the bed and looking at me and saying, "Don't tell." So I'm getting told again, "Don't tell, don't tell,
Wow.
don't tell." And the electric's being turned off, the water's being turned off. My parents are arguing all the time about money, and just feeling so scared and like I was a burden, and even though they never blamed me, I created this belief system based upon all the experiences that I was the problem.
Wow. Just real quick, what were your age at this point?
I can remember feeling this way, 5, 6, 7 years old, but carrying that with me all the way until I was 17
Mhm.
years old.
Yeah.
And luckily, when I was 3 and that sexual abuse was occurring, my little brother was 1 years old. Now, was it 3? Was it 4? Was it 5? I was very young, but I took it upon myself to make sure my younger brother was protected. So he gave me a sense of purpose, and I really do believe that my younger brother one of the main reasons I made it through in my younger years and my teenage years and into my young adult life, because I made sure, I felt like, right, like I made sure he had food and his schoolwork was done and he was clean and, had all the things. So it provided me a sense of purpose to be able to take
Mhm.
care of somebody else. My dad worked a lot, had a decent job. When my mom was able to work, she had a decent job. So we should have had money, yet we didn't. And so I just created this story and this belief system inside of me that money was unsafe to have and money was never around and there was never enough money. And that there was anxiety attached to money all of the time.
Mhm.
When I made it to the end of high school, I still carried this belief system. I was stupid, I was fat, I was ugly, but I can remember the other kids in the class talking about this thing called a class rank. A class rank. What is your class rank? What is your class rank? And I'm like, what's a
Yep.
class rank? Like, I don't know what this is. And it's like based upon your studies, where you rank as far as, your learning abilities in the system. And I was like, well, how do you find this out? And they're like, well, you go to the guidance counselor and they'll tell you. And I'm scared to death, but for whatever reason, I want to know this. And I'm scared to talk to people. I cannot look people in the eye very often, especially if it's people I don't talk to. So I gather courage inside of me and I walk down to the guidance counselor's office and I have anxiety and I'm sweating and I ask, and come to find out I was 13th in my class of 186 or 187.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Were you
Thank you.
surprised?
Honestly, I was so numb. I still thought I was stupid, even though that's the number I got.
Mhm.
And there was also a part of me that was like, well, maybe if I had known, maybe I would have tried a little harder, because, I'm going through school and there's like this thing called like top 10 and they get special
Right.
things on their gowns and a special like tassel. And so there's a part of me that's like, well, if I had just known, maybe I could have tried a little bit harder. But there's also this bigger part of me that was like not really comprehending or connecting what this really meant.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to go to college, and my parents were supportive of that, although they couldn't afford to send me to go. And so I applied to several colleges. I got accepted at all of them, and I knew I wanted to go away to college. Um, but my parents weren't able to help me with that. And
Right.
so, I'm looking into things and I find student loans and I decide I'm going to get a job. And, like I said, my parents were supportive of this. And I knew I wanted to go away far enough to where they couldn't really tell me what to do anymore, because I also had this sense of they had a lot of rules and I felt like I had to follow them. And there was a lot of anxiety connected to those rules. And I felt really, really bad if I disrespected or didn't follow the rules. So
Mhm.
I created a perfectionist mentality inside of me, always, living by other people's expectations and not really forming a full sense of self. So I go away to college. I become a full-time student, become a full-time employee. I become a full-time partier, because in college, it's the first time I experienced what felt like freedom to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't, there's no rules. I don't have to go to bed at a certain time. I also connect with people that I feel connected to. I connect with people who are creative, people who are visionaries, who see change in the future, who see politics in a different way than I had ever seen it before, who know how to write poetry, who are musicians and artists and see life through a completely different lens. And I feel very connected to this. My heart begins to open up, but also that what came along with that is this scene of partying and experimenting with drugs and alcohol. And the first time I drink alcohol, I'm drunk after one sip, literally. Like it literally changes the chemical makeup in my body, but I love it. Like it allows me to experience freedom in a completely different way, and I'm hooked.
Mm,
Automatically, I'm hooked. I just want to feel this way all the time because for the first time in my life, I don't feel confined to my mind. I don't feel confined to my emotions and my insecurities and all of these things. And so I go wild and I drink all the time, and I carry with it this badge of honor because for a long time I was able to, drink for uh, many hours during the night, wake up, have my homework completed, still be able to go to school, still be able to go to work, pay my bills, am functionable. So I wear this badge of honor. I'm functioning alcoholic.
mhm,
I
mhm,
and life went on that way. And my friends get concerned for me, and they have interventions. And I become a completely different person when I'm under intoxication. I am mean. I am unkind. I am unkind to myself. I do things that I don't normally do, but I don't see this. All I know is I feel free. I feel like I can dress any way I want. I can put my hair any way. I don't feel like shy Amy who can't look people in the eye, who hates herself. I
mhm.
feel like free.
Yeah.
And so even though they're concerned, I continue to do this anyway. I end up graduating from college. My bachelor's degree is in psychology. My minor is in English. I'm a very incredibly proficient writer. I absolutely love to write. But while I was in college, when I was 20 years old, I was living in a house with some roommates, and my bedroom catches on fire while I'm sleeping.
Oh,
And I wake up and the entire room is on fire, and I'm looking around and I'm trying to figure out how to get out. And the only way out is to go through the door, which already has some flames around it. And
huh.
so I jump through and I escape with my life. I lose everything else in the process.
Oh my God. I just had a back injury.
Right. And
Woo.
and I lose, and it's not the stuff. Like, yeah, there's minor attachments to the clothes and the furniture, but really, what got me through when I was very young were journals.
Mm,
I would write. I'd always been a writer, and I would write in those journals. And when I was very young, I was very connected to what I called God. I say higher power now. And I would have conversations with God. And I can remember when I was 7 years old, I had all of these visions of life, of what was going to happen when I was in my 40s, and how life was going to be. And it was very scary when I was 7 years old. I couldn't comprehend that the world was going to be in this place where I was going to be. I would always see mountains, and I was leading people up a mountain, and they were following me, and I was scared, but these people trusted me. And I'm walking, and I see devastation, and I see health issues, and I see all these things at the time period that we're going through. And I get these visions over and over and over, and I start writing just based off of my experience. And my best friend until I'm about 13 years old is God. I pray and I talk to God and Jesus all the time. And that's another thing that got me through is, that connection. So fast forward to the fire, right? I lose everything I own, and I believe that God is telling me I'm supposed to live like a monk. And it wasn't the stuff that I lost. It was the journals and
mhm.
the pictures, like of my brother and I. My brother, I loved my brother, very close to my brother. And pictures of my family, like those are the things I'm grieving, of not having. And I vow then and there, except for, right, because there's exceptions to this monk thing for me, right? Like I'm still allowed to drink. I can have a car so I can go to the bar, and I can write papers if they're due for school, but I swear I'm never going to write again. I swear I'm never going to write. Now there are little periods where I did write from my heart for certain people as I met them. I would write like journals, and if I really felt connected to them, I would write an entire journal and it would be dedicated right to that person. But as I give that to these people, these very select few people, I tell them, once you're done, you must burn them. There can be no evidence of my life on this planet. I know. And so I live
Very
this
intense.
very, very, right? Like, so I learned to live without TV and connections and things. And do I have things? I have things, like, but I lit comparatively a very minimalist life. And from the ages of 20 to 40, there were very few pictures of me. I wouldn't allow people to take pictures of me. Um, I wrote very, very little, and I just lived inside this cocoon and the shell of shame and guilt. And when I graduate from college, I become incredibly suicidal. I'm committing suicide very often.
Yeah.
I can't handle. I become incredibly depressed. I'm living with a roommate at this time, and she's very concerned for me. She calls my parents, asks them to come and pick me up because she doesn't want to deal with my suicidal and depressed tendencies because I'm not getting any better. And I understand all of that. So I moved back to Northwest Indiana. I'm living with my parents, and here I get DUI after DUI after DUI. I have 3 DUIs, and I begin to hang out with gang members, and I begin to get connected to IV heroin, and I become an IV heroin addict. And I travel to the projects of Chicago with gang members every night in places where my skin color is not welcome. And I'm camouflaging and putting things over me and hiding in the car and, doing all these things that just aren't normal for me. And I'm suicidal. I'm trying to commit suicide. I'm almost leaving the planet. I'm not leaving the planet. I'm very sad. I'm very lost. Although upper drugs like cocaine and crack really weren't my drug of choice, I also wasn't picky. And when I couldn't find the drugs that were my choice, I would, if that's what was around, I would do those things. And I just was stuck in this vicious cycle of pain and self-hatred. And I try multiple times to get well. I go to inpatient detox, I go to outpatient detox, I go to therapy. I'm diagnosed as not bipolar, borderline personality disorder. I'm diagnosed with as psychotic. I'm diagnosed as severely depressed. I'm diagnosed with severe depression issues. I'm prescribed medication. I see a therapist. I go to AA. I do 90 meetings in 90 days. I get a sponsor. I work the steps. I stick with the women and stay away from the men. I do all the things that people say should help. And I still have this stigma. I can't connect to people. I can't connect. I can't connect. I'm trying at the same time, this connection piece isn't there for me. I'm not getting it. And I can't stay sober. And I get my third DUI, and that carried what was to me was a very stiff penalty of looking at a year in jail. And I'm driving my car, and I'm intoxicated, and I'm not proud of this at all. There were many choices that I made that I look back on and I think, oh my gosh, but it's what I did. It's part of my story. And it's part of what makes me who I am today, and I share very vulnerably all parts of me all of the time, because I know it heals people that are still
Mhm.
stuck and struggling.
Right.
Um, right. I'm driving my car. I crash into a telephone pole. I pass out. I don't realize I pass out. I crash into a telephone pole. There's all these people standing around me. There's a crowd of people. I get out of the car. I'm trying to run through this group of people because I hear the police coming, and I know that I'm going to go to jail, and I don't want to go to jail, and I'm scared. And they're like, hey, you got to stop. The police are coming. Are you okay? And I'm bleeding because the airbags have gone off, and I'm scared. And I run back into the car, and I lock the doors, and all the people are not, are you okay? Are you okay? Or what's going on? Like, the people are coming. They're going to help you. A policeman comes. I get handcuffed. I get put in the back of the police car, and I'm sitting back there. And I have these weird quirks to me. I'm like, intense. Like I'm this, and like I have this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of personality. I'm very fiery, yet at the same time, I'm very quiet and reserved, and you never know which version of me you're going to get. And I, I was always really into exercise and, making sure I worked my body out. So, I've done yoga, not consistently, but enough. And, I've worked out, and I'm in the
Mhm.
back of the police car with the handcuffs behind me, and I'm flexible enough from all the yoga I've done over the years to shimmy the handcuffs under my feet and pull them, in front of me. And it's summer. I believe it's July, maybe August. And he has the window down in the back of the police cruiser about 3/4 of the way. And I'm like, I'm not going to jail. I'm just going to kill myself. I'm going to put myself up on the windowsill, and I'm going to roll out of the car and crack my head open. And I'm just going to die right here. And so that's what I do. I get myself up on the window and I roll myself backwards out of the car, and I don't crack my head open. And the policeman stops and he gets out and he's scared and angry and all kinds of emotions. And he gets me back in his car, calls an ambulance. I'm in the psych ward again, just to kind of get my balance back. I come out. So at this point, I've crashed my car. I've lost my job because I couldn't go to work. I had to call my boss and tell her what had happened. She fires me, rightfully so. I have my family has turned their back on me, rightfully so. I have no friends. I'm looking at going to jail. And I'm at the lowest place in my life. And my parents, out of the kindness of their heart, are like, you can come back here under the condition you have to have a job. But I have no car and they're not willing to take me anywhere. I've lost my license again,
Mhm.
possibly for the rest of my life. 3 blocks away from their house is a health food store. I go apply there, I get the job. It saved my life. I studied the human body nonstop, biology, chemistry, physiology, anatomy. I study nutrition. I study energy work, energy healing, medical intuition, alternative health, Reiki. I study all of these things, and I'm starting to put all the pieces back together. I understand that, right? Like when I'm drinking the alcohol, it turns to sugar in my body, and sugar and carbs feed a type of yeast in the body called candida. And the candida is addicted to the alcohol because it loves to eat sugar and carbs. And my body's addicted to it, but there's this living organism inside of all people, and it's hungry and it wants to eat too. So it just kind of complicates the addiction. And I understand that as the candida grows, it creates inflammation in the body, and this inflammation creates digestive distress, and that digestive distress creates adrenal fatigue. And I understand completely how my body works and what I need to do, and I completely transform my health. I change the way I eat. I start drinking more water. At one point in time, I had a doctor look at me. I had damaged my liver so badly. She looked at me and she said, Amy, you're going to die. Your liver is so damaged, you are going to die. And I remember thinking, I'm already dead inside. What does it matter?
Wow.
And and then there's this other thought, right? Like, no, you know what? I'm going to find the way. There's this little voice, always this little voice. You're going to find the way. 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 And I start to transform that health piece. And as I transform that health piece, I start to feel better, but there's still this missing link because periodically, once I stopped doing heroin, I never went to heroin again. But I couldn't quite understand this piece with alcohol and my emotions. Because when I would get too worked up over something for really short bursts of time, I would go to alcohol to numb out so I didn't have to deal with the reality of my life. Right. And so I didn't really get this a mental, emotional, and spiritual piece until later. I worked at that health food store for 12 and a half years. I was honored and privileged. The owner was gracious and kind and made sure we were very educated. I decided to go to school and become a naturopathic doctor. Unfortunately, the school I went to went bankrupt before I got that degree, but I got to go to China and Tibet and study traditional Chinese medicine and just traditional Tibetan medicine short term, right? And I'm helping people, and I'm under like when you go in a health food store, there's like thousands of supplements for thousands of different ailments. And in those 12 and a half years, I learned about people and how their body works and how their mind works and where they're struggling. And I learn about thousands of ailments and thousands of things that are helpful. And of course, having a doctor and making sure you are like your doctor's on board with your program, right? But I'm educating people in aspects that I had no idea about,
Mm.
making these connections, and it's one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. But I have these bouts where I go into depression and I drink for short periods of time, and I feel so much guilt around it. I just feel so much guilt, and the towards the end of my career at that health food store, the age of the internet dawns, and people can see that they can buy things online and it can get delivered to their house and they don't have to go out, and sometimes prices are cheaper, and
Mhm.
and so people are coming a little bit less into the health food store and buying a little bit more online, so revenue starts to decrease some. And I start to hear, well, if revenue keeps decreasing, some people might have to lose hours, or some people might not be able to keep their job. And in my head, I'm like, I make just enough money to pay my bills, right? And I'm getting to this point where I'm outgrowing the job. There's nowhere left to go, and I've always had this mind of like being able to grasp information very quickly and being able to take it and process it and execute it. And I just love to learn, and it's like I can't feed that part of me and fast enough sometimes. And you know, I get told by society, right? You have 3 DUIs. This is going to be as good as it gets. People with a criminal background don't get good jobs. Even though you have a college degree, they're not going to pick you, right? These are the thoughts going through my head. You're
Mhm.
not going to get chosen. You're going to never, this is what you get. It's good. And this is good enough. I mean, the people there were amazing. I loved it. But I'm starting to feel sad inside because there's nowhere left for me to grow
Right.
my soul, my emotions, and my mental capacity. And I get scared because I'm like, I make just enough money to pay my bills. I make just enough.
Mhm.
And I can't not have a job. I can't lose hours. And I was not willing to invest more money into 4 or 6 years of school because I had already tried to go to become a naturopathic doctor, and that didn't really work out. And I'm connecting, and I'm like, well, I'm willing to go to I'm willing to find a certificate program or something that's like maybe 2 years, and I don't do the internet. I don't do I'm 40 years old. I don't do the internet. I don't surf the net. I don't do emails. I'm not on Facebook. I don't know anything about social media. I don't have a TV. I don't do those things. And I have to look online. I have to start doing things that are way out of my comfort zone. And I find this thing called a health coach. Get your certificate in as little as 6 to 12 months. And I'm like, a health coach? What's a health coach? And
Mhm.
I'm really excited. I'm like, I know a lot about health. I know a lot about supplements, like 6 to 12 months. That's right in my time frame. Like I want to do this. And I go to this school called Health Coach Institute, and it put all the pieces together, the mental, emotional, spiritual pieces. And they started to help me self-actualize, even though I didn't really realize that's what they were helping me to do. They were asking questions in a certain way that my mind started to see things differently. And the next thing I know, like, I'm vibrationally vomiting shame and guilt, and I start writing again out of the blue, 20 years. No, like, unless I had to, no, and I'm writing, and I can't stop writing. I can't, and I'm not told to do this. I just start automatically doing it. I'm writing people letters. I'm apologizing. I'm getting all of this shame and all of this guilt out of me, and I'm writing, and I'm writing, and I'm writing, and I'm writing, and I'm writing letters, and I'm sending them, and I'm talking to people, and I'm letting them know how grateful I was they were in my life, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am. And even though I couldn't see it at the time, like, I see why they were put in my life at certain moments. And, I'm having all these epiphanies, and I go to bed one night, one person, and I wake up the next day a completely different person. But nobody else is having an experience like mine. Where they're stuck is like, how am I going to help people with their health? I don't feel like I have enough information there. And for me, the experience was completely different. It opened me up in this completely different way. And I remember I got told by one of the teachers, you know, and this changed my life. I'll never forget it. Your story is your most powerful tool. And I'm crying. I'm like, my story?
Mhm. Right.
Like, my story that I didn't tell anyone at that health food store about because I was so ashamed. There were 3 people. I worked with 30 people. There were 3 different stores. Probably only 3 people knew my story, and only bits and pieces.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, and at this point, even though I'm in sales and I know how to talk to people, my voice sounds like I'm a boy in puberty. All those years, it wanes in and out. I can barely talk to people. I still can't look people in the eye. I have a very soft voice. I'm right. Even though people trusted me and they knew me and they liked me, and they would come in specifically looking for Dr. Amy after a certain period of time, once they knew how extensive my knowledge was and I could share information with them, I'm still have a hard time looking, and soft voice, and it cracks, and it so I burst through fears. I do a talk, and my voice shakes, and I'm
Mhm.
looking at the audience, and I'm training myself to look people in the eye, and I don't have a mentor. I'm just training myself just based off of things I learned in life. I have to train myself to look at people. I have to train my voice to get stronger. I have to walk through all this fear. I have to retrain my anxiety. I have to retrain all these things. And there was something inside of me that just, I had to share this. I had to share this with other people. And so anybody who would allow me to, share what I knew, I would, until I made it to this place where I started working with clients, and I started to see them change and transform from the techniques that I had learned myself. And I gained, other certificates in NLP, and as a Reiki master teacher, and my um, uh, health coaching certificate, and my bachelor's in psychology. And I start to take all the pieces of my life and put it together into a results driven program that helps people overcome their fear and their shame and their guilt, and really just stand strong in the truth of who they are, because without the story that they've been through, they can't transform and share the beauty that they are with the world and connect to their own wealth consciousness, which, to me, money comes along with that, but it's really about owning your worth and learning to love yourself, and learning to love your journey, and learning to love all of the things that had to occur, even though it was painful at the time, so that you could have this defining moment to connect to your passion and your purpose, and see that all of that pain really had a purpose. And it's the most powerful thing. And it doesn't mean that we negate it, or we don't connect to it, or we have to let that pain go. It's just part of who we are, and we can take that and we can share that with people, because it's incredibly powerful. And I just kept sharing and sharing and sharing and sharing. When I learned things and it sunk in and I got it, I would create programs, and, I would give talks, or I would, just do Facebook Lives, or whoever was around and willing to listen to little old Amy Boswinkle, I was willing to share.
That was the most riveting story I think I've ever heard in my entire life. I didn't say one word the whole time. It's 45 minutes.
Mhm.
Amy, you're amazing.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Incredible. That has to be a movie one day. You think?
Thank you. It feels good in my heart. It feels good in my heart,
Yeah.
when you say that. Yeah.
Hmm. Amazing. Wow. What a trip and a half, huh?
Oh my goodness, Dominic, you are not lying when you say that. What a trip. Yes.
Yeah. A couple of times while you were talking, I was thinking about that Pink Floyd movie, Tear Down the Wall, and at the end he gets sentenced to tear down the wall. Remember that show? Did you see it?
I did when I was a teenager. Yes.
Wow, Amy, woo! That's intense. I mean, all the different things and getting cuffed and oh my gosh, and the DUIs and wait. So okay, so the health food store that was somewhere local in Northwest Indiana, I'm assuming.
Yes. Baum's Natural Foods.
So
Yes.
Bombs. That was I forgot her name. Sarah. No. What was her name?
Uh, Norma Baum is the
Irma.
original creator, and then her daughter Robbie
Okay,
took
right.
over when, yeah, yeah.
She had the place that was downtown Highland, right down on the end there. And Unit. There was another one in Cherville or on 45th.
I worked at the one in Griffith for a short period of time, and then was transferred to the one in Munster on 45th. And then there were, throughout the years, locations in Whiting. There's a location in Maryville still. There's a location in Highland still on 45th. And there was a location in St. John
Okay.
as well, and I might be missing, but they've been various places, and there are still two locations, one in Highland on 45th and one in Maryville, just off of Route 30 by
Mm-hmm.
Meyer.
Wow. Because I've been in that store, not all those locations, but I have been in there, Munster and Highland for sure.
Mhm.
And wow, small world, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Crazy. My gosh, Amy, you're intense.
I know. I have this soft little voice, but once people like talk with me, it's like this, there's this fire inside. I'm very fiery inside, soft spoken, but fiery.
Yeah, no kidding. So okay, so with all that, all I said was, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that's what came out to all our friends in the audience.
That was fabulous. So at the bottom of the screen here, I don't know that you can read it. It says a passion for helping people create wealth consciousness. So tell us about that. What is the structure of the? I mean, do you have like an organization? Is it a small business? What is it? Consulting?
I'm I'm a small business owner. I'm a business coach. My business is called Connections Restored. And really what I do is I help people uncover what I call their why beneath their why. So a lot of times people will come to me and they want something, but there's a reason why they aren't going out and creating what it is that they want. So I help them uncover what's underneath what I call their self-limiting belief. And we pull that to the surface and do some mindset work around that and start to open up the lens and see through a different perspective. And then once we're able to do that, we're able to connect to what I call the wealth consciousness, right? Is confidence, right? Because confidence feels completely different than fear.
Hmm.
Right? We connect to worth, right? Owning our story. Instead of living in shame around what our story is, we start to connect to, you know what? There's only one you on this entire planet, and you have a gift. You have been given this passion and this purpose, and you know, you have your particular story for a reason, and people who are connected to you need to hear that story so that they can come closer, right? And so we work through fear for a lot of times in the beginning, and then as we start to feel more confident and we break through all of the lower vibrational feelings like fear and anxiety and things of that nature, then we work on the strategic pieces like who is your ideal client, and what approach feels best to marketing and strategies, and connecting to your people. How will they hear you? What are the best platforms for you? And creating strategies and marketing approaches based on what feels good to that person. Because what I found in my own journey is a one size fits all approach, like for marketing, didn't really work for me. But once I was able to make that malleable and stretch it into a space that felt good inside of my heart, then things just kind of exploded. And once I understood that piece, I was able to help people connect to their heart-centered way of being able to go out and find their people as well.
Hmm. Interesting. So where do you find your clients? I mean, I see you online all the time. Your stories up there, you're walking through there, you're on the beach, you're over here, and all the stuff. And so how do you find your clients? They just connect with you and then, you know, direct message, and then the magic starts to happen from there?
So I found clients through giving public talks, whether it was through Facebook like this, and just inviting them into my world. I have my own, private Facebook group where I do teachings, and I say, hey, you know what, if you want to learn more about me or more about what my life is like, you can come and join me here. I've gotten clients from being connected to other people in other groups,
Hmm.
when we're doing like challenges or something like that. And a challenge sounds really great to me. And I just show up. I am continually pushing myself through my comfort zone, right? So if the mentor or the teacher of the challenge is like, hey, you know what? Post your results, post this, post that. Even though it goes against what I want to do, and maybe nobody else is doing that in the group, I push through my comfort zone and I show up. And when people see you show up, right, they're like, oh wow, look at that. Or they read your comments, or and they're like, and as they're reading your comments or this or that, they're like, oh wow, I didn't see it that way, or I didn't think
Hmm.
about it that way, or you have a really interesting perspective on that. And start to create like chats and get to know people, and just invite them, and continually as I get to know people, inviting them into more if it feels good to them. Just saying, hey, you know what, if this feels good to you and you'd like to learn a little bit more, you can connect with me here. And I just allow people that space, and not make it so cold messagey, and like we don't know one another, and here I am like we don't know each other, but this is what I have going on.
Right.
It's more like
Yeah.
like let's get to know one another and
It's organic.
see if you like me.
Yeah. Very organic.
Yes.
And I think that is the same methodology that I use, because I don't want to, it's like one thing that I don't like is when people try to put their stuff on me, like, they have a certain belief system and it's like, well, you should believe this. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't.
Yes.
It's all about self-discovery. So, well, that's great. I mean, really. And I just want to say, first of all, welcome to the network, because that's you're totally, what you're doing is totally in alignment with what I have created the Self Achievement Network to be about, giving people that opportunity to be vulnerable, to open up, to share where they're at, and to support other people from their experiential understanding, not from the. I mean, you got to have both at the same time. You have had a journey, that has that's extraordinary, and the to me the cool thing is that you have taken all that and have completely did a plot twist and regained your life. And like I was telling you with my story, I mean, all the things that happened in my past, it was because of choices. Very simple. And the choices that I was making during those tough times of my life were out of really an ununderstanding, a not understanding of what the possibility on the other side could be, which was my preference, you know. So, anyway, wow, that's great, Amy. I mean, the gifts I see in you are your strength, your power, your courage, your depth of understanding, your willingness to share and open your heart. And wow, thank you for sharing that. That's just incredible. But can you cook?
Cooking is actually one of my passions. Yes, I absolutely love to cook because it calms me down. And I've been a vegetarian, I think, 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah, cooking is a huge part of my daily life. So yes,
Mhm.
I can.
Yeah, good. And you have a favorite go-to vegan meal?
Honestly, like really simple. I really love to saute any kind of vegetable in vegetable broth. It has a little less sodium and it is really good on the cardiovascular system. And then uh, I make brown rice. I put that all together, and then I use just a little bit of liquid aminos on top of it for amino
Mhm,
acids. So yeah, it's
mhm.
fan. I love it. Like I could eat that every day for the rest of my life. And I know a lot of people are like, "Don't you like variety?" And I'm like, here and there,
Yeah,
here and there. Like yes, but like I could. There's really a lot of things I just could eat the same every day and
yeah,
not get sick of it.
interesting. Wow. And I've got a friend that's vegan, and she wasn't for a long time, and she has a group on Facebook, and I should send you the link. She's great. She's really passionate about it too. She's like no oils, no nothing. She's been trying to convert me for a long time, and I'm like 95% there. Except there's just certain things I'm just like, okay, I'm not going there. But that's a choice.
Exactly, and I love how you keep bringing that into the conversation because it is so profound once we gain awareness of choices. So thank you for bringing that into our conversation of a few different times now because it's just such a profound thing to gain awareness that everything we do in our life is a choice.
hmm It is. It's true. I mean, that's really what it gets down to. No matter if it's drugs or sex or choosing what you're going to have to eat, or I mean, it's just like everything is all choices all day long, 24/7. What time should I go to bed? What time should I wake up? All this. I mean, it's all about choices. You want a
Yep.
different life? Choose a different path. Oh, but I can't because I have a craving. Well, choose a different craving.
Yes.
I mean, it's not. I know that sounds simplistic, and there's the new normal. I mean, all that stuff, and yeah, what you're doing is really incredible, super incredible. Okay, so let's talk about your. This is called person behind the passion. So for those of you who are watching, see on the screen, person behind the passion, right? So what about music? I mean, do you have a genre that you listen to, or is there like a song that you put on and you're like, favorite? Don't tell me Britney Spears. I'm just kidding.
Um, it's really just recently that I've been connecting to music, and I'm not going to tell you that I've never listened to music in my entire life because when I was in college, I hung out with musicians. So I would say like original pieces really speak to me. But there's this really long period in my life where there was a lot of silence. So I'm just recently kind of connecting to music and allowing that energy to just kind of come in me. And this is probably going to sound like the most asinine thing ever, but it's the truth. Is like, when I'm walking or working out, I will literally just turn on YouTube and allow YouTube to like bring up whatever it wants to bring up. And I'll just press the song and I'll play it. And like, if I like it, I'll listen to it a million times. And if I don't like it, I'll just go to the next song.
Yeah. Well, there's so much music out there these days. I'm surprised. I use Apple Music, and I mean, something's always coming up that's like I've never seen before ever. And then I do the same thing with my workouts. I'll just play it, and it's most of the time it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it's like my phone knows me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for artificial intelligence.
Right?
So are you one of those like grass eat drinking people? I mean, or dandelion cultivating? You go out in the lawn and you look for dandelions, you crawl in there, like, or you pick them for salads, or what do you do?
I wouldn't say it's like that. Like, I really just like to be surrounded in nature. So it's more like walking in the forest or walking in really beautiful places and just really connecting to the vibration of what I see, hear, feel, smell, taste. Just kind of allow all of that energy to come in me. And what really speaks to me the most is honestly, I've become very clear with this choice, is larger bodies of water. There's some kind of energy that just kind of calms me and soothes my soul. Am I into organic and things of that nature? Yes. Have I had gardens in the past? Yes. I'm not really at that space in my life where that's what I want to do all the time. So right now, my choice is to go out and support people. That is their passion. So I love supporting other local entrepreneurs, small farmers at the farmers markets and things of that nature when those things are available to me.
The farmers markets are going to start cropping up if they haven't already.
Yes.
Summertime is like, it's right. We're here, right at the cusp.
Yes.
If you had if I sent you a ticket, a two-way ticket, round trip ticket to any place in the world, where would you go? 2 weeks.
Oh man. A round trip ticket to anywhere in the world, I'd go to Bali.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Yes.
Because?
I I've heard it's this really amazing place. There's just so much beauty there. I like warm weather. I hear there's warmth there. Um, it being able, like, to me, it's not that I can't ride my bike here, but I would love to be able to ride my bike everywhere. Like, go to the grocery store, go to all these places and, do all these things. And it's not that I can't here. It's just, there's a lot of people here where I live in Northwest Indiana. So sometimes the choice is not to go there on my bike. So I would just like to experience like life in a more simplistic way. It's more catered to my inner being.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, because I've been to places like that. I've not been to Bali. There's a little island in the Gulf of Thailand. Gulf of Thailand, yeah. It's called Koh Samui.
Oh, I've never
And
heard that.
it's like this. I have friends that live there, and the culture is just like that. You get on a bicycle. I mean, there's the little scooters that go around the island, and and cars. Not that many, but it's mostly people on bikes and scooters. And you just, you go from this little store to that little store, and then you go home and you cook a little while, and then you hang out and go to the beach, and the people are they grow their own food, a lot of them. But it's sweet. And I've been to places like that in Mexico and in Costa Rica, and that is a great little life, isn't it?
To me, absolutely. I know it's not everyone's choice, but it would be to me. Yes.
Yeah, just set your date and make it happen. You can do that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you my favorite question. And this is like one of those expansive questions. If, so I know, we've been on here for a little over an hour, and I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but let's just pretend, okay,
Okay.
that every single person on the planet is going to watch this
Okay.
all at the same time. So what message, if you have every person on the planet, their undivided attention, everybody's listening to you, right? What would you say to humanity?
Oh gosh, don't ever let anything in your past that you see as a failure, as a not good enough, define you. It is part of your experience on this planet to go through those things, and it actually is the most powerful gift that you have if you can just look at it through the lens of what was that there what was that there for to teach me.
Amazing. Yeah, that's exactly right. Forgive yourself for all the different things that you've done, like that, all that. Man, you have been through. Whew, Amy, you're, like I said, you're intense. So where do you see yourself in a couple of years? My second to the last question.
um I would love to live in Florida, right on the beach, and I would love to host more in-person retreats for women and heart-centered men, and just really connect and share ideas, experience, strength, and hope, and really get to the core of, you know, limiting beliefs as to why we can't get to where it is we want to go, and do and help them with all of the subconscious rewiring work that is holding them back, so that they can just continue to move forward and walk towards that. Because if I've learned anything, I mean, there's so many things I've learned on this journey. It's just been such a short period of time, but I've lived so many lifetimes in these past 4 years since I've woken up. And that is, we're limitless. Like everything and anything is possible, and it's just a matter of walking through fear, and I get that, right? And so I just want to continue to show up and share the techniques and tools that I've learned to continue to rewire that, the cross neural pathways, and help people really dig into the occipital part of their brain, and connect to the subconscious beliefs that are holding them back, and really propel them forward.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And you're invited anytime that you want to come into the network. You can share any of your videos. We've got several different hubs. We can talk about that after we get done here, that you can post in, and I will be more than happy to support what you're doing, and sharing it out to the different, and we were an international group, and so there's always somebody out there that's going to connect to what you're doing, and so we're here to support. So Amy, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Dominic. It's been an honor and a privilege to spend a small amount of time with you and your community, and I'm very appreciative.
Well, thank you. Absolutely. So bravo to you, and to all of you who are out there, you're watching or maybe watching later. Thank you for joining us here for, a little cool thing that we do here, giving people this opportunity, person behind the passion. And we'll see you guys soon. I've got one coming up next week. But anyway, thank you, Amy. We'll see you soon. Take care. Be well. Come back very soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye for now.